Hello students, let's read the problem. And it says, the graph below represents the number of calls X made by a customer and the monthly cost Y that the customer pays. Using information from the graph above, which equation represents the monthly cost a customer pays according to the number of calls made? So let's see, what are they looking for? Well, it says that I need to find an equation that represents the graph above. Is that correct? So if you look at the answer choices, I have some equations and I need to match the graph with one of those equations. Okay, so if I look at the graph, then I need to make sure that I can find at least 2 points on my graph so that they can help me find both the slope and the y-intercept. Okay, so there's also something else given to you in the problem, and it says, what does the X represents, right? So the X represents the number of calls, okay? And Y represents the monthly cost, okay? So very important that we see the meaning of X and Y. So what we're gonna do next is I'm gonna find at least 2 points on the graph. And I know what you're thinking, Miss, there's already 2 points there. And I do see this point up here, which is pretty okay. That is on 500 and 100 on the Y. So that's a good point, right? What about the other point? Well, this point over here, if you notice, is not on 20, neither on 40. Which reminds me that if I look at the intervals, it looks like we're missing some numbers, right? But they're not. The first line is actually 10, because then 20 follows. So we can go ahead and complete my y-axis. And they're going by 10 units, okay? What about the X? Well, I see that it jumps from 0 to 100, so the one in the middle has to be 50 and so on and so forth. So I can see that we are counting by 50s, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and finish it up. So we have 100, 150, 250. I know it's kind of tiny to write down the numbers, but I just wanted for you to see that when it comes to doing, for example, rise over run, if we want to try that, we got to make sure that I know what am I going to be counting by. Okay, so I got those 2 points. And like I said, this point, it's not on 20, it's not on 30. It looks somewhere between 25, 24, but since I'm not sure, I am not going to use that point. Okay, so let's go ahead and find another points that I can actually tell the coordinates for that. So how about this one? I think that's a good one, right? That's 140 on the Y. And let's see, there's another one over here. That one, it's 370, right? So we can use those points to find the rise over run. So yes, we're gonna choose to use rise over run. So anytime that they give you a graph, you might want to give it a try to see if you can do rise over run instead of using the equation for the slope of a line. Okay, so let's go ahead and count. So I'm going to go 1 up, but remember 1 up actually means 10. So that's 10, 20, and 30. So I'm going to write it down right next to it. So I'm going to say 30 up. Okay, I like to write the description, which means either up or down, because that's going to determine positive and negative numbers for us later on. Okay, so let's move on. I'm going to count from there to the right because I'm trying to reach that point. But notice how from there is, even though it looks like 1 square, 1 unit, it's actually 50. So that's 50 plus 1 more is 100, 150, and 200 to the right. So let me write it down over here. And like I said, the up and the right makes a difference when it comes to actually writing the numbers. So since 30 it's up, it's a positive, so I just leave it like that. Since 200 is going to the right, then I leave my 200 as a positive. Can I simplify that? And the answer should be yes. I can divide both of them by 10, which basically means that I can cross out one of the zeros from the numerator and one from the denominator. That's what it means to divide by 10. and I will get 3 over 20. Okay, and that will be my slope. Okay, so if you want to check that that works, then we can go to the point and see if I can reach the coordinates of 500 and 100. So I'm gonna go up. This is 10, 20, and 30. Yeah, it's still 30 up. And to the right, it's 50, 100, 150, and 200. So yes, my slope is correct. 30 over 200 simplifies to 3 over 20. Okay, so we're good on that. The next thing that I'm going to do is I need to find the y-intercept. Is that right? And to find the y-intercept, I am going to use the formula for the slope-intercept form. Okay, so let's work on that one now. So what am I going to need to do for this one? Well, I can use the slope that I already found, but I also need to choose one point. You guys can choose any point that you want. I am going to choose 140, where 100 is x and 40 is the y value. Okay, so let's replace the values. So the y value will become a 40. The m, it's my 3 over 20. And I'm going to multiply that by the x value, which is 100. And of course, I'm going to add the plus b. Okay? Question so far? Awesome. Let's go on to the question. So now I'm going to multiply 3 over 20 times 100. Is that right? So that will give me 300 over 20. Is that right? And I get 15 plus b. Okay? Since I want to solve for b, remember, we want to solve for b, then I need to get rid of the 15. And the 15, I need to subtract 15 on both sides. So 15 minus 15 crosses out or cancels. And I get b equals 40 minus 15 is 25. And that will be my y-intercept. And I want you to come back to the graph. And I want you to look at the y-axis. And I want you to look at the point that is here. And that kind of look between 25, 24, and very close to that, right? So I can tell now that it is 25, okay? So what do I need to do next? Well, now I need to actually write the equation for that. And of course, I am going to need the equation of a slope-intercept form, okay? So let's simplify some values here. Let me make that a little bit bigger. Okay, so let's replace the values for m and b on my equation. So the y, I'm going to write it down again. Now m, it's 3 over 20. And I leave my x right there. The b, it's 25 and it's a positive. So I just write plus 25. Now remember, if 25 was a negative, then instead of saying plus 25, I will need to write down minus 25. Okay, let's look at my equation now. Let's look at this equation that I found, and let's look at the answer choices. Do I see anything that matches this? Yes, right? The answer for this is actually letter A.